Hello everybody and welcome to the West Ham My YouTube channel. Of course you already know who I am. This is the West Ham United versus Brighton Hove Albion Predicted 11 and score prediction, where of course I'll sit down and look at both sides, who's going to play and how West Ham can try and get a result against these lot. Obviously Brighton Hove Albion have had a few disappointing results this season, but nonetheless they play some impressive stuff. Look to play out from the back, we've seen it. They brought in some decent personnel as well, Basuma, Adam Lallana, Danny Welbeck as well, which I'll touch on, that West Ham have to be wary of. Again, it should be a game that West Ham are impressing themselves in and really exploiting the space that an expansive Brighton team will leave. Again, I guess it isn't easy because of the personnel. It'll be interesting to see whether someone like Mikel Antonio plays in this game, because I think West Ham, we saw against Chelsea, lack that player that can really stretch defences. But also we've seen even from the midfield with sometimes the likes of Mark Noble, Pablo Fornals, the sort of inability and that lack of pace that hurts us on transition that we've been so good at throughout the season. Obviously, losing our wing-backs has obviously contributed to that. But let's get into the Brighton side and let's see what they've got to offer. Of course, you've got Sanchez in goal. He's coming for Matt Ryan. All of you will know that Matt Ryan has played a number of years for Brighton regularly. So it's interesting to see now he's dropped out of that side. Could possibly be because Graham Potter wants a ball-playing keeper. That is a modern-day style. Obviously, West Ham don't adopt that, and I wouldn't change Fabianski for the world. But I guess Brighton want to play out from the back. They want to be expansive. I think it would actually suit for teams to come on to Brighton and allow them to play out from the back, because I do think they've got pace with their wing-back system as well as their front man. But again, interesting choice. Made a good save against Sheffield United. Let's try and put him under pressure. I'm not sure how West Ham are going to press Brighton. I think we can press a little bit better in a 4-2-3-1 if we press as a team. But again, not too much I've seen from this guy. So again, West Ham may have to be cautious on the press and look to put him under a bit of pressure, and I'm sure we will do from the deliveries. Veltman will slot into right wing-back. Now, obviously, I thought it was a fantastic buy at the time. I think it's 400,000 from Ajax, which is incredible given Champions League experience, composed on the ball, good in the tackle. He's really a centre-back by trade. So the fact that he's playing at right wing-back is a bit puzzling. Tariq Lamptey is injured, which is a real bonus for West Ham. I wouldn't wish an injury on anyone, but that does help us significantly. His pace coming inside as well from that wing position, keeps the width nicely in almost like a four-man midfield with the wing-back. So again, it is positive. What I've noticed about someone like Veltman is defensively, he'll look after Ben White on that right-hand side. I mean, he has done quite a bit, but he won't be able to get us forward as a Solly Marshall on that left. So again, there is a little bit of imbalance in this Brighton side, particularly from the wing-backs, but he is a good player. I'll be looking at someone like Osai Benrahma to get onto him and try and get him behind. But again, I think that relationship that Veltman and Ben White have on that side makes it difficult for West Ham to try and expose and get him behind. So it is interesting to see how we're going to take that one on. But I certainly can't imagine him bombing on too far forward. And that offensive outlet that Lamptey offered won't be there. Let's get into this guy. Obviously, I've mentioned him, Ben White. I mean, he's been fantastic for Leeds in the Championships, come up to the Premier League, really composed player. I think I watched Brighton versus Aston Villa. And at one stage, he's playing almost in a 10 role. That's how far Brighton will push up, and they allow their centre-backs to push up as well and support that attack and support the midfield. And it's part of their press. It's a very unique tactic from Graham Potter. He does it with Webster, he does it with Ben White, and he allows that other midfielder, whoever partners Basuma, to push forward, and the centre-back then occupies that space. So there is an opportunity for West Ham, particularly if Brighton have got possession, to hurt them. I've always said it's about how quickly we transition and how we deal with the threat, because it may look a little bit, not too much of a threat from someone like Ben White, a centre-back, very good on the ball, will keep the ball as well. And I think that's what Brighton are going to do. They're going to try and pin back West Ham a number of times. We have to use our outlets from the back in Aaron Creswell, and then we have to use the pace where we've got it in the wings and up front, depending on who plays. Let's get to the centre-back. The main centre-back is Lewis Dunk, a number of years a Premier League defender. I really rate Lewis Dunk, and to be fair, I would have taken him at West Ham a number of times throughout the years. Great in the air, good from deliveries as well, both offensively and defensively. They're really strong in the air, Brighton. And I think sometimes when we look at these teams that can play out from the back, we say, are they really good at set pieces? They're not, shock, but they're very good in the air, one-on-one in the air, and it's not going to be easy. It's going to be tough for West Ham from second balls as well. You'd back Brighton's defenders in that instance. It is purely just an organisational thing from those set pieces. But yeah, I like him, strong in the tackle. Not the quickest. Again, like I always say, we can try and get him behind centre-backs. It depends where West Ham are situated on that pitch and how many men we have forward, because I do think we can particularly split those Brighton two centre-backs that they do become when other teams can break them and they hit them on transition. This defender, for me, was probably the most interesting of all of them, and it is Adam Webster. They brought him in from Bristol City. I knew of his goal scoring record. He comes to the Premier League, it's fantastic, really good. And he's the guy predominantly that will step up into that midfield position when Brighton have got possession. Good on the ball, good from deliveries offensively as well. Got a great shot on him from outside the box. A real danger for West Ham. I think it's easy sometimes for us to sit there and say, well, if we play a low block, we can soak up the pressure and they won't be able to hurt us. But Brighton allowing another man to come into that midfield and support Bissouma, allow the front men as well in that midfield, the more attacking likes of Lallana, possibly Alzate to get forward. It will hurt us. It will hurt us at times. And it'll be interesting to see how David Moyes and the back four deal with that press when we choose to press and how we do it. So, and what the protection is going to be from Declan Rice and Souček and the role that they have. But listen, they are very, very good individually. Like I've said, though, this tactic of trying to put pressure on and keep up the press means that you isolate the two centre-backs. You can use width because both the wing-backs push up significantly, but not as far forward as to take it to the byline. They'll take it possibly to the final third, look to get crosses in, look to come a little bit central and create overloads. So again, from the outset, I think you think that Brighton are going to create width. Not necessarily true. And even when Lamptey's been in the side, I'll get on to Solly March, they will come a little bit central. You see Solly March's goal against Aston Villa. Comes central, puts it on his right and puts it top corner. But they're not trying to create width. Probably suits West Ham massively in a low block. So it is something to be wary of. And I think it is something that West Ham will feel comfortable with. I really rate Solly March. Really, honestly, genuinely, I think he's a fantastic player, good on the ball. I think he doesn't offer the same protection to the centre-back, particularly Webster, that, Veltman will offer to Ben White. Again, it's because he likes to get forward. He is, of course, the more attacking of the two wing-backs, particularly Veltman being a centre-back. Good deliveries. Will try and come in a little bit central, create overloads from those deliveries as well. So he can be a threat. He can get on the ball. It's interesting to see how West Ham line up. It'll be interesting to see how deep Declan Rice and Souček sit, because I think they're going to have to go at times, and I think Solly March will have the space and the freedom. And listen, I'll back Soufal in a 1-to-1, but you feel that if Brighton push on someone like a Lallana, they're creating question marks for the West Ham defence. So it'll be interesting to see how we deal with someone like Solly March. Can be a threat. Is really an offensive threat. So you're looking down that right-hand side, particularly someone like Jarrod Bowen. If we can push Solly March back, prevent him from getting forward and creating overloads, I think you can alleviate a little bit of that Brighton pressure when they're in possession. Now, midfield. Obviously, like I've said, these two wing-backs, I've kind of set it up a little bit like West Ham would, but really and truthfully, Veltman and Solly March will look to create almost like a midfield four. And then you've got the two centre midfielders in there, very, very similar to West Ham. Probably in some aspects suits us to have two centre midfielders, because we feel like when West Ham come up against 3 or 4 or 5, it does become quite difficult. And obviously teams can dominate the possession. I'm going to start with the player that will probably play in a more advanced role, is Adam Lallana. Really good technical player. Obviously, you don't play for Liverpool for that amount of years if you're not good on the ball. But yeah, very progressive. Will look to get forward. Fantastic. Really on both feet. Good dribbling skills. He'll try and keep the ball for Brighton, and I think he'll try and keep the pressure. I do think physically, I think possibly if you look at someone like Thomas Souček, could try and dominate him and get the ball. I'm always very, very cautious in our two pivots trying to attack the ball and win it. It does leave space in behind, and I think Brighton are the team that will thrive on that. But Adam Lallana is a tricky customer, really, really is. He's got really decent final pass from that final third as well. He'll be the more creative. He'll be the more the number 10, and he'll look to try and hurt West Ham, particularly when they've got the ball. This is probably the most bizarre discovery that I made. Obviously, Yves Bissouma, on paper, is a fantastic, almost like a number 8. I think people probably get it a little bit mixed up, and I think possibly he's sitting a bit deeper. Obviously, he's got that level of athleticism that means he could protect that Brighton back three. I think Potter's tried to mitigate that by pushing a centre-back forward and allowing possibly Yves Bissouma to just sit in beside them. Again, he's athletic. He's got a good passing range. He'll look to distribute to left and right and try and spread the play and break West Ham down. His position, though, means that he's constantly in that advanced role. Even if he isn't going up in the same almost 10 role as an Adam Lallana or an Alzate, when they look to get on the ball and create overloads, he will just sit just outside that box and try and keep that press on West Ham. Again, because he's not sitting deep and they don't have a deep line midfielder, a pivot, West Ham can hurt them, particularly from a 10 position. If we've got someone like Manu Lanzini, if Benrahma comes into the 10, even if Pablo Fornals comes into the 10, they will get space in behind that Brighton midfield, particularly when we break them and they're trying to press us. So it is an interesting thing. I think Bissouma's position means that West Ham in midfield can win the ball, the turnover, and progress with it. And I think that gives us a great opportunity to press as a team, something that we haven't had in recent games. And that has hurt us, whether we've had to deal with too much pressure or whether we've not been able to get enough men forward to support Sebastian Haller and push him further up the pitch. So I do think, I look at Adam Lallana, I think naturally we can get the ball off him. Ibra Suma is the player that I think that if West Ham, particularly a Rice or a Souček, can go, press, win the ball and carry the ball, I think West Ham can start to push up, possibly the right back and a left back in Aaron Creswell and Soufal, possibly again in the two centre attacking midfielders on both the left and the right, naturally as well, Sebastian Haller. So it's a battle that I think West Ham need to win. If we can win it, I think Brighton, particularly with back two, which is what it will be, the inability of both of the backs to get back in time and get in that defensive shape, they've got a real weak area there, Brighton, and I'd be looking at West Ham to exploit that a little bit more. I always keep saying interesting, so I won't say interesting. I'll say intriguing. Brighton will play almost with two attacking midfielders, and I think typically the way that they orientate is to have one go and support the striker, in either a Danny Welbeck or an Il Mopai, and one to sit a little bit deeper, try and pick up the ball and find the final pass. And I think possibly Graham Potter is going to pick two attack-minded attacking midfielders, one being a striker. I'll start with the striker because it is interesting for me. Neal Maupay, again, found himself a number of times last season as the number 9 in this side, and I don't think, as good as I think Maupay can be, I'm not sure it suits him. He looks to try and hold the ball up, play it into the likes of Trossard moving forward, Aaron Connolly moving forward, and bring the players, in behind and carry that ball. And I think it's impressive, but I don't think it suits Brighton. I think Welbeck's given them a different dimension, means that it can try and get them behind and hurt teams. So I'd say from a low block perspective, probably would have been easier having Maupay as a number 9. But nonetheless, what you'll find in this game, he'll go up to support Danny Welbeck. And I think Brighton are looking to try and employ almost like two strikers at times to get men in the box, to create overloads, as I've said. And again, they can be dangerous. They can link up. And I think even against Sheffield United, I know Welbeck was in the right place at the right time, but that is positioning. That is obviously his striking ability. And I think having Maupay next to him gives him someone to work off of. And typically, you'll find possibly someone like Danny Welbeck trying to pick the ball up, probably a little bit deeper than he should be, and allowing the likes of Maupay to get on. And I think Maupay's previous experience in that role as a central striker means that he can do that, and I think it suits him possibly playing in an attacking midfield role where he's got license to get in beyond, rather than try and hold the ball up and introduce the midfield. So I expect him to be in more advanced positions, and I expect him to get up alongside Danny Welbeck rather than sitting behind him. Now, this will mean that someone like an Aaron Connolly, who has previously gone in behind in the same role that Maupay, will probably sit a little bit deeper. Again, I think he's fantastic. I think he's probably better than Maupay in terms of getting behind. His natural pace, his dribbling ability, his directness can hurt West Ham. Again, against the back four without protection, he's the type of guy that I would look at to really stretch our defence. Maupay probably won't do the same, but again, offers probably a little bit of a better link up with Welbeck. So expect Aaron Connolly in this game to sort of sit a little bit off, try and pick the final pass. He'll have Adam Lallana up in support with him. So they'll play almost like those 2 10s and push Maupay up alongside someone like Danny Welbeck. So Brighton will put the pressure on. One thing I would say is it's all very central from Brighton. I think it's easy to get sucked into the wing-back argument and say that creates width. I don't think Potter's really too interested in creating width. I believe he thinks that by creating support and relationships amongst players as they move the ball through the pitch, that they can try and break teams down and use quick passing and introduce midfield and hurt teams. But I think Connolly will sit off a little bit here. Not sure it suits him. I think Trossard's played that role previously, and Trossard in that position has come really deep to pick up the ball, and has been given a lot of freedom in terms of the ball and trying to move it forward. So interesting decision, I reckon, from Potter. Nonetheless, both can hurt. And if they play between the two and play between the two positions again, and Connolly starts to move up alongside Welbeck, I think it probably causes West Ham a lot more issues in terms of that defensive shape. Now, I think this man has probably been the most impressive signing for Brighton so far, and I say that purely on what I've seen of him in the past 6 games. It's the first time in a long time he's started 6 consecutive games for Brighton, for any club. And I think what Welbeck offers is real mobility, genuine pace, mobility to get in behind, composure in finishing, decent aerial ability. He's a fantastic player. And obviously I think that injuries hurt him and hampered him over the years. But you see some of the goals that he's scoring for Brighton. Again, he's got that ability to carry the ball, hold the ball up and introduce the midfield, very similar to Maupay, but he can get in behind. He's offering Brighton a different dimension in their attack. And I look at our players sometimes, and particularly Balbuena or Ogbonna, particularly Balbuena, and I'm just concerned that if Welbeck tries to peel off and he's drawn out, that, to try and win the ball off Welbeck, who can come into deep areas, that Brighton will be able to get in behind. That possibly, if he tries to come and get it off of the two attacking midfielders, that Welbeck can get in behind. I think there's a lot of questions that particularly Brighton's attacking players are going to try and pose for West Ham. And again, I think we're going to have to take risks at time to win that ball and win that turnover, because that could be the few chances that we have to get forward, exploit the space and hurt Brighton. But certainly there's a number of avenues that they can do that. They'll try and play a little bit central. They'll try and introduce the midfield, and they will keep pressure on West Ham. And it is up to West Ham in this game to break that press and to use the players that we've got and create width and hurt them in areas and hurt them out of possession. Because I think Brighton's fall this season has 100% been there when they're out of possession. The structures in the team isn't fitted to defend appropriately. Basuma's not a pivot. The wing-backs don't get back quick enough and sit in. They don't defend as a team. And I think West Ham will exploit that invariably. Now, let's get to the West Ham predicted 11, starting with Lucas Fabianski. Again, no question marks here. Of course, he starts for West Ham. Really impressive this season. Again, I always say it, but the consistency that he's shown, his shot-stopping ability, his leadership at the back is really crucial. He's going to have to be switched on, because I can imagine that the avenues, if West Ham's defence, there is a lapse in concentration, that they can get behind and they can hurt us. And I think that Lucas Fabianski is going to have to be switched on, even if Brighton, and even if at times it will look like Brighton can't hurt us. They've got the chance and they've got the players to do so. So it's going to be an interesting game for Fabianski, and you'd have to hope that he's switched on. Now, in his 4-2-3-1, of course, Vladimir Coufal is going to play a right back. Again, massively impressive. I know the Chelsea game isn't probably the best example of West Ham defensively, but certainly one-on-one, I've been really impressed with Coufal. I don't think he's going to be tested too much in terms of that width. I think he's going to actually be asked to come a bit central and create that solid centre-back unit with them, and to really support Balbuena, because I think that's where the problem could lie in terms of being impatient, whether the two centre-backs try and come out and win the ball. And you'll be looking at someone at Coufal, particularly to keep an eye on someone like Solly March, who's going to come, who's going to be a late runner, as well as additional midfield runners from Brighton. So I think it's a different type of game for Coufal. I'd be interested to see. There's going to be space for him to get forward, because the wing-backs will push on. And I think, can he win that ball? And can he carry it and use the width in order to do so and push the team up? Because I think if he can do that, if Aaron Creswell can do that as well, I think West Ham will find opportunities to get in behind Brighton's centre-backs. So it is, again, a big task for him, probably less so defensively. I don't think there'll be too many questions asked of him in his position, but offensively, can he carry that ball? Can he get forward? And can he hurt Brighton? No surprises in the centre-back pairing. I think it speaks for itself. Obviously, Ogbonna will come on probably on that left-hand side. This is a tough game for Angelo Ogbonna. It really, really is. I think the press is going to hurt West Ham. I think deliveries from Brighton, albeit I've said they're poor at defending them. Webster's pressure, the additional runners in someone like Lallana, Mopé going up to support Welbeck. This team is very offensive-minded, and it is really up to someone like Angelo Ogbonna to be organised, to support Balbuena, and to really ask Balbuena not to press the ball on his own. If West Ham press as a unit, they have to do that. They cannot press one by one and try and man mark and do almost a lead style. I know we haven't really done that previously, but again, it will hurt us, because Brighton in those central areas have the runners in beyond, have the runners in front, and you just worry one mistake could really affect us. But you'd be looking at Angelo, again, really strong in the air to deal with a Webster, a Dunk, a Ben White if he plays as well from deliveries, and kind of keep it a bit solid at the back. This man, I will always maintain, I'm kind of a fan, to be fair. Like, he has done fantastic this season. He is, of course, Fabian Balbuena will play on that right-hand side. Again, against Chelsea a few times, particularly during the latter stages of the game when we press, he's the guy to go and try and win the ball. There isn't that patience from him. I think he's improved in that in previous games. Come back in the side against Chelsea. Again, the mobility they pose is a different level to Brighton. But certainly he could become a little bit restless, try and win the ball. And I think someone like Danny Welbeck, I look at if he can peel off to that left-hand side, can take advantage of that. So I'm not sure what Balbuena's role in this game. I mean, he has to be disciplined, and he probably has to look at someone like Declan Rice to support him and win the ball off Danny Welbeck and prevent Brighton putting a press on us. Because I think if Balbuena is asked to go out and try and win the ball, unfortunately, I think they've got enough to get in behind and hurt us, and teams don't really give them that opportunity for a reason. And I think West Ham have to be very, very similar in that respect. On the left-hand side will be, of course, Aaron Creswell. Been fantastic this season. I think we can kind of look at that Chelsea game and we can look at our left-hand side and say was it his fault for the 2 goals, or was he not switched on? Again, I never really look at it like that. I think my biggest criticism of Creswell has always been when he advances too much with the ball, and we've seen his quality as well from advanced positions. Can he get exploited in behind? And I think he's not really doing this in this back four, like what we've seen in the 4-3-3. In the 4-5-1, it's a bit more reserved. In the 4-2-3-1, is exactly the same. I think we'll get hurt when the centre backs and both the fullbacks progress. This is a question mark, because I don't think we've asked this question of Creswell probably in this system. Can we push him up into those advanced areas against the Veltman? And Veltman isn't going to hurt West Ham offensively in that wing-back area. He's not going to come in, and even if he's able to come in central, realistically, I'm not sure he has the pace, the mobility, or the final ball, and typically like a fullback does nowadays, to hurt West Ham and to hurt Creswell. So I think this gives him a little bit of a reprieve, and I think maybe it actually gives him an opportunity to get in those advanced positions where he's making those inverted runs and using his delivery and getting it in and trying to get the likes of Saad Benrahma in advanced roles further forward and take the pressure off West Ham. And I think if he's got a bit of space and time in this game, Aaron Creswell can really hurt Brighton on that transition. And I think if West Ham aren't going to transition through the team, there isn't going to be a ball carrier in there, his delivery has to be quality to the forward men. And so this is a real interesting, it's a question mark for both Soufal and Creswell offensively. Can they hurt Brighton? Can they take their midfield out? Because with the way they'll press, West Ham can take Brighton's midfield out with one decent pass. It is just about West Ham's forward men being in those positions to capitalise on that. Now, the midfield speaks for itself as ever. You can have Declan Rice, of course, in front of that back four. I thought he was really good against Chelsea. Again, I think he's getting better and better. Composure, as I've always said, defensive awareness. There are always question marks in terms of, the pressure that he's going to be put under in every game because we have a two-man midfield. And then also going forward, can he affect the game? And I think, as I've said, with Yves Bissouma, with Lallana, at times Brighton will have only one centre midfielder in almost an 8 role to keep that press alongside a centre-back. Now, I think that lack of mobility could hurt Brighton, and I think West Ham should try and take opportunities from that. Declan Rice isn't, of course, the box-to-box midfielder, but there's no reason why, from what we've not seen of him in previous games, that he can't go and take that ball, run with it, carry it, and bring it forward and push Haller further up the pitch, because we will not hurt Brighton in this game if we cannot get Haller in the final third. And you've really got to look at those two centre midfielders to drive the ball, get the ball forward when we win the ball, and do that for the team as a whole. Because West Ham in a 4-2-3-1 look effective when we press. When we sit back and we're not athletic and we're not trying to get out from the press, teams will find a way to break us down inevitably. Because as good as we've been this season, defensively in almost a 5 at the back, when you start to get to a back 4, again, there are always chances for teams, particularly in the Premier League, to create overloads and hurt you. And again, I think this is a good game for Souček, if I'm honest. I think he's the guy I'd look at and say his athletic ability, he has got that box-to-box, characteristic. If he can carry the ball and if he can make a late run, of course, naturally, I think if West Ham can use the width and you can get Souček in advanced positions, he's going to get space in behind that Brighton defence that play almost the mid-block. They can sit back a little bit here. I'm not denying, I'm not saying they're reckless in a press, and it's probably the same way that a Villa, but they can create that mid-block, and I think that they relinquish the width. Late runners, they won't be able to deal with. So I'll be looking at someone like Tommy Souček to get forward to bomb on. But again, I suppose he'll be tasked with that defensive responsibility, dealing with the additional runners. I'd like to see a battle between him and possibly someone like Bissouma. And I think if he can win that battle, I think West Ham can carry the ball, press as a team, and we can hurt him. And that is the element of the transition that we're missing, that athleticism. So interesting battle as ever for the two centre midfielders. I think offensively we've got to see risks in this game, and I think there's no reason why we can't see them playing in almost 8 roles. Now, as ever, let's come to the attacking 3 midfielders. This is what I want. I think probably it won't happen, but I think this is how West Ham can hurt them a little bit more. On the left-hand side of that centre attacking midfield has got to be Saad Benrahma. The reason being, I think he suits him playing a little bit out on the left and coming into his right, can play an inverted winger. I think he's got directness. I'm not saying he's a pacey, he's got natural pace, but I think he's got the ability to beat a man, be creative as ever, create the final ball. We've got to see him in this game. I think he'll get space as well on those wide areas. I think if he picks them up there, I don't think Brighton and their lapse in getting back into the defensive structure is going to suit them, will suit Saad Benrahma. And we saw against Leeds, when you give Saad Benrahma space, he's got the ability to hurt teams. And I know we didn't get the final end product, and we were a little bit, we weren't clinical in that game, but there's no reason why Saad Benrahma can't still put the quality of deliveries in and the final pass in, but he needs runners in beyond. This is why I say Souček has to move on, Haller has to move on. Look at the Jared Bowen on the right-hand side to push on as well. But I think it will suit him. I think he can come out to the left. I think he can come in central as well. Like I've said, no natural pivot for Brighton in here. So again, I think when they'll really just have a back two in a mid block, Side Benrahma should massively benefit from that, and he has to play. There's no reason why he shouldn't have played against Chelsea, unless it was for a rest. And again, he has to start in this game because he's got enough quality going forward that we need on transition. It's as simple as that. In the attacking field role, ignore the labels. It's got to be Pablo Fornals in the 10. I don't think Lanzini will be fit. This is the reason why. Yes, Lanzini was impressive when he did come on against Crystal Palace, and I think if he's fit, probably, I don't want to say guaranteed starter, but certainly offers a little bit more than Fornals in mobility in that final third. Listen, he's lost a lot of athleticism since his injury in 2018, but certainly I think he can hurt teams in the final third, and his link-up's very good. Pablo, for me, has to play in a central position. I think we as fans have said this for so long. His work rate will be important. I'd like to see him actually, and I think this game gives him license to sit back and try and support possibly the two pivots and win the ball. And I think his work rate in this game will work in the turnover. And I don't think he's lightning quick on transition, but I do back him in terms of his quality of final pass. I think sometimes his 5-yard passes are questionable, but certainly in final passes, I think he can get that. And I think this is a game for him to thrive. I think he'll get space. I'm not saying he's got pace to burn, but if you can give Fornals a little bit of space, I back him in terms of the quality. We may need him in terms of his work rate defensively in this game. Like I've said, I don't think Benrahma is going to be troubled by a wing back. So again, that would sort of facilitate why someone like Fornals can come to the centre. And I think there's not going to be enough bodies in that Brighton midfield to hurt Fornals. So I am going out on a bit of a limb and saying play him in a central attacking midfield role. But I think it suits him. It does suit him. We haven't seen enough of that for me. So I think he'll start ahead of Lanzini due to injury. On the right-hand side is Jared Bowen. This is a game that he should absolutely thrive in. Genuinely should be excited to play. Like I've said, Solly March is lapsing in defensive responsibility, making the inverted runs when he's in the final third. Yes, Solly March will keep the width when he's in possession up to that stage when he gets to the halfway line. But when Brighton progress past that, he just tries to bomb on and create overloads. You look at somebody like Bowen, with pace to burn, directness, can beat a man, can stretch defences. He's got so many attributes when we come up against teams with a press that I think, again, no-brainer, he needs to play in this game. We've always questioned his final delivery. I think that's been a question mark of him. Again, he's young. He's come up from the Championship. I think it's a level of consistency that he needs to maintain. But I still think, I always speak about can West Ham create chances and can we get in behind? Bowen has always been that guy on that right-hand side that can do that. And I think just the way those wing-backs play for Brighton, possibly even the fact that I think Soufal can win the ball and transition further up, pushing almost Bowen into a final third area, means that I think we could finally see Sebastian Haller in the positions that we need him to be in rather than in too deep, and the team press up a little bit higher when we win that ball in turnover. So certainly I'll be looking at Benrahma and Bowen to keep the width in this game. They will find the space there, and I do think Fornals will find the space in behind the two Brighton midfielders, which almost becomes like a mock centre-back and Basuma. So again, I think West Ham's attacking three. I'm not sure there'll be too much responsibility on them defensively. I think West Ham have got enough in central areas, but let's get them forward. Let's put them into the Brighton's half, and let's use their directness and try and get balls into behind for this man that we have conversations about every single week on this channel that I'm sick and tired of talking about, but I will give him the airtime because, of course, he will play. Is Sebastian Haller. I think maybe there's an argument that Antonio could play. I would personally say don't rush him back. I think West Ham will have enough in this game to beat Brighton, particularly from deliveries, and I'll touch on that before I end. But Sebastian Haller has to be in the advanced positions. He didn't have a bad game against Chelsea. I thought generally his hold-up play was okay. His positioning is a concern, not from an attacking sense, because I think the runs that he makes, his awareness in attacking areas is decent when he's there. But again, him coming up to the wing and trying to win the ball is unproductive, isn't what West Ham need. I think that the three attacking midfielders have to work hard, and they have to work hard in order to support Haller. Whether we like it or not, Haller is that player that the system needs to accommodate rather than, West Ham, him trying to accommodate to us. That's not how it should work for him. Antonio is a different player because Antonio has got that ability and that work rate to stretch and come to wing, and he has played on those wide areas before. Haller less so. So let's push him further up. Let's push him into that final third. Let's put the responsibility onto the attacking midfielders. And let's see Sebastian Haller in those advanced positions, because I do back him. I know the Palace. I know he's got a penchant for acrobatic goals. Of course he has. But again, you look at that goal that he scored. It was because he's in the advanced areas, and he will get time in this game. He will get time aerially from set pieces, as I'll explain, and he will get time from open play. But we cannot have Sebastian Haller continuing to come deep in a 4-2-3-1. He has enough support in behind for me, particularly in this game where they can play on the wide areas, to get forward and to get in the box. And that's what I would like to see from him. Again, Antonio for me would be a no-brainer, as it always is if he's fully fit. But I think, West Ham have got enough in this game to create chances from open play, and Haller probably can give Antonio a rest. Might eat my words, but I hope I don't. But for me, that's the predicted team. For a score prediction, before I finish, the set pieces. Brighton's ability to defend from set pieces offensively is terrible. Every in-swinging cross that you'll watch from a Brighton goal conceded this season, they've struggled on. And I think West Ham's, particularly from the in-swinger of Aaron Creswell, you also look at the ability, you look at that Leeds game, Angelo Ogbonna getting onto the end of a delivery, and the players that we have in the box that can hurt teams, Declan Rice, Souček, Ogbonna, Balbuena, so many players from that type of delivery that can hurt teams. And you look at Aaron Creswell's delivery and say, I think West Ham need to target that. If we can get the ball up, in open play, we can win a set piece. You'd be looking at West Ham to take full advantage. But we always say this every time: be clinical with it, because I think too often West Ham create chances and don't score. And I think Brighton is a perfect game from a delivery aspect, and even from an open play aspect in some respects, that West Ham can get chances. But we have to be clinical. And we have to beat the press, and we have to be mindful at times. You can't disrespect Brighton because of their press and say that it's easy to transition. We've got to be switched on defensively, particularly with the back four. And I think if we are, we will find space that we can exploit. West Ham have shown that this season. Put the Chelsea game aside, forget about it a little bit. We still played okay in that game as well. And we can move on to this Brighton game and try and get an upturn in our fortunes. Score prediction. I'm going to go for West Ham 2, Brighton 0. I think we'll get a goal from a set piece, probably towards the end. And I think we'll get a goal early doors. West Ham tend to start fast. I think Brighton, if they try and press West Ham, they'll find very, very quickly that we can hurt them in transitions, as I've said. If we can get Sebastian Haller into that final third, I think West Ham have got a focal point that we can target for. And I think the wide men could come central as well. The amount of space that they should have, particularly if the fullbacks push forward, West Ham will have enough from open play to hurt Brighton. And I think defensively, given the way that Brighton try and create overloads, that suits West Ham. We saw against Leeds, the overload style, trying to put extra runners into the box, suits West Ham, because we can sit in that low block for long periods of time, and we can ask Declan Rice and Souček to provide that defensive cover. And at times, if they can get that ball, win that ball in turnover and push it up, West Ham will find chances to hurt Brighton. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to hopefully we can get back on track, we can get the 3 points, we can keep a clean sheet, and we can go into the Southampton game that will be a tough game and compete. And let's see where we go. This season's been a bit of a whirlwind so far. We've done incredibly well. Let's get back to the 3 points. If you've got this far, make sure you like the video, and of course, make sure you subscribe. Thank you so much for everyone for subscribing so far. More content on the way. And until next time, take care.